Earlier in the day, while addressing the joint session of Parliament, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, President of Turkey, reiterated Ankara's support for Pakistan and its stance on the Kashmir issue. Erdogan said Turkey is Pakistan's strongest ally and the two countries share a bond rooted not in interest but historic affection. The Turkish president said Ankara appreciates and supports Pakistan's brave fight against terrorism. He appreciated Pakistan's positive contribution towards the peace process in Afghanistan. Erdogan said the US-Middle East peace deal is not a peace process but a plan for annexation, occupation and demolition of Palestine. The Turkish president is in Pakistan on a two-day official visit, during which he will meet the country's top leadership. Earlier at a meeting in Islamabad, Pakistan's President Dr. Arif Alvi and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan have agreed to work closely to counter rising Islamophobia. President Alvi informed the Turkish president about the human rights situation in occupied Kashmir. He also highlighted Pakistan's efforts for peace and reconciliation in Afghanistan. Moving on, Turkey says it has killed 63 more Syrian soldiers in Idlib province. This comes a day after the Turkish defense minister claimed killing 55 Syrian soldiers in the same region. Ankara has stepped up its retaliatory strikes in the region after accusing Moscow-backed Syrian forces of killing 13 of its soldiers. Turkey has sent additional reinforcements to its military positions in Idlib. Tensions are high in the region following clashes between Turkish and Russian-backed Syrian forces. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan accuses Moscow of breaking the Sochi Pact and committing a massacre in Syria. But Russia rejects the allegation, saying it targeted terrorists in Idlib over which Ankara broke the ceasefire accord. Syrian air defenses have intercepted hostile Israeli missiles over the capital Damascus. Syrian state media said the attack was launched from over the Golan Heights. It said air defenses downed most of the missiles before they reached their targets. Earlier this month, Damascus accused Israel of attacking military targets in southern Syria, including near the capital. Saudi Arabia says Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has no plans to meet Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. In an interview, Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud said Riyadh's policy towards Palestine remains firm. He said Riyadh's policy has been very clear. There are no relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel. The foreign minister said Saudi Arabia welcomes attempts to resolve the Middle East crisis. He added Riyadh is willing to normalize relations with Israel only if there is a fair settlement that is agreed on by both Palestine and Tel Aviv. Russia has expressed solidarity with the Organization of Islamic Cooperation's stance against U.S. Middle East peace plan. In an interview, Russian envoy to OIC Ramzan Abdullapatov said Moscow shares views of the Islamic world over a host of issues. Abdullapatov said the Arab Muslim world withstood a challenge and showed unanimity on the issue of attitudes toward the deal. He said, despite internal disagreements, the bloc presented a united front on the Palestinian issue. The envoy said Russia plans to welcome more involved in the issues of Arab Muslim world. US President Donald Trump's Middle East plan gives Israel a green light to annex key parts of the occupied West Bank. The Muslim world has unanimously rejected the plan. The US says it has seized weapons believed to be of Iranian design and manufacture from a dhow in the Arabian Sea. In a statement, CENTCOM said the arms cache was seized from a vessel during maritime security operations in the US Central Command area. It said the ammunition included 150 anti-tank guided missiles and 3 Iranian surface-to-air missiles. Under a UN resolution, Tehran is prohibited from supplying, selling, or transferring weapons outside the country unless approved by the Security Council. Meanwhile, the US Senate has passed legislation to limit President Donald Trump's ability to wage war against Iran. The law, authored by Senator Tim Kaine, says a declaration of war requires congressional debate and a vote. Last month, the Democrat-controlled House of Representatives passed a separate, non-binding war powers resolution. In Iraq, a rocket has hit the K-1 military base housing U.S. troops in the remote province of Kirkuk. No casualties have been reported so far. It is the first attack on the base since December 27th, when a volley of 30 rockets killed a U.S. contractor. The Iraqi military says it located the launcher with 11 more rockets still inside, but the assailants had fled. Last month, Iran fired a barrage of ballistic missiles at Ain al-Assad base in western Iraq, housing American troops. The U.S. initially reported casualties in the attack, but Pentagon later confirmed over 100 troops were wounded. The deadly new coronavirus has killed another 121 people in China, while infecting almost 5,000 more. Officials say 1,380 people have died from the virus so far, with around 64,000 infected.
With a broader definition of diagnosing new coronavirus cases in China's Hubei province, the number of reported cases has skyrocketed over the past 24 hours. But the WHO says the apparent sharp rise does not represent a big shift in the epidemic.
In the last 24 hours, China has reported 1,820 laboratory-confirmed cases, bringing the total cases to 46,550. In addition, China reported 13,332 clinically confirmed cases in Hubei province. And crucially, we understand that most of these cases relate to a period going back over days and weeks.
European health ministers have expressed concern about medical supplies and urged EU member states to work together against the outbreak. So far, there have been only 35 detected cases of COVID-19 strain in the EU with no casualties. But the rising scale of the outbreak in China has raised concerns.
A few words to conclude with on a subject that was shared this morning and which has been the topic of many questions in France and in Europe today: the consequences of this epidemic in China on the availability of medicines. At this stage, no problem of access or shortage of medicines have been reported in relation to the coronavirus epidemic, either in France or at the European level.
China National Biotech Group says virus-neutralizing antibodies have been detected in the plasma of patients who have recovered from COVID-19. They said experiments have proven they can effectively kill the virus.
We have a lot more coming up right after this short break, so stay tuned. Welcome back to our news bulletin. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says the alliance will do everything to prevent a new arms race with Russia. Stoltenberg was referring to Russia's deployment of land-based cruise missile called SSC-8 by NATO. Speaking in Brussels, he said Moscow's move was behind the demise of the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. He says the treaty was designed to keep nuclear weapons out of Europe and avoid short-notice attacks.
We do whatever we can to prevent a new arms race. A new arms race, especially with nuclear weapons, is not good. It's dangerous and it is expensive. So therefore, we will continue to work for arms control to address the challenges.
Canada's transport network has ground to a halt after the cancellation of train services because of protests by Indigenous groups. Canadian National Railway has stopped freight trains in eastern Canada and warned of layoffs if blockades are not dismantled. Officials say over 400 trains have been cancelled during the last week. Protests erupted after the hereditary chiefs of the Wet'suwet'en Nation in British Columbia opposed a $40 billion natural gas pipeline. The Parliament and 19 Indigenous tribes originally signed an approval for the project. Some hereditary chiefs oppose the pipeline, saying they will not allow their ancestral lands to be destroyed. U.S. Attorney General William Barr has slammed Donald Trump for his tweets, saying the president's comments make his job impossible. In an interview, Barr said President Trump's attacks on prosecutors, judges, and jurors during the trial of Roger Stone undermine the Justice Department's work. The Attorney General was accused of bowing to Trump's wishes after he withdrew Stone's sentence after his conviction. Barr said he will not be bullied by Trump because the U.S. Justice Department is under immense scrutiny over its handling of the case.
To have public statements and tweets made about the department, about our people in the department, our men and women here, about cases pending in the department, and about judges before whom we have cases, make it impossible for me to do my job.
Roger Stone, the president's former advisor, was convicted of obstructing the House Intelligence Committee investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 elections. Moving on. In Honduras, a criminal gang has freed their leader after ambushing a police convoy, taking him to a court hearing. The gunmen dressed in police uniform attacked the convoy near the capital Tegucigalpa, killing 3 policemen and wounding 2 others. Police say Alexander Mendoza is the most senior leader of the MS-13 gang. Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez has offered a reward of $80,000 for information leading to Mendoza's recapture. In Belgium, the home of quality chocolate, Brussels is staging the annual Salon du Chocolat Fair, an event showcasing what's new in the chocolate world. The high point is a fashion show where chocolatiers and fashion designers collaborate to bring chocolate clothes to the catwalk. More in this report.
Chocolate molded into wacky designs from evening gowns to garland crowns is gracing the annual Salon du Chocolat fair in Brussels. Models walk the ramp in 14 different creations, including a jumpsuit with chocolate petals emerging from the fabric. Just one of the highlights is a long beige and red striped gown resembling knitwear. The 100 artisans working on the event used chocolate products from Belgium and around the world.
It was a challenge. Actually, 4 years ago, I was like, okay, maybe why not work with chocolate, something that you can eat, and just fabric. And so I tried to contact the Salon of the Chocolat, and they asked me if I wanted to make a dress, and I said yes, of course. And then since then, I just 4 years working with the same chocolate company, Valentino Chocolatier, and this is the last one that I made this year.
The fashion show opens a 3-day chocolate extravaganza of exhibitions and workshops. Organisers say the event will attract some 25,000 chocolate fanatics, spectators and contributors this year.
We're taking a short break. Stay with us. The U.S. has expanded its lawsuit against Huawei, accusing the telecom giant of a decades-long plan to steal technology from American firms. The superseding indictment filed at a Brooklyn federal court in New York charges Huawei with conspiring to violate the Racketeer, Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. The indictment alleges the company broke U.S. sanctions against Iran and North Korea. Huawei is accused of installing surveillance equipment in Iran used to track demonstrators during the 2009 Tehran protests. In a statement, Huawei said the charges are not about law enforcement, but an attempt to damage its reputation for competitive advantage. Huawei says the new charges are a contrived repackaging of claims already litigated in a civil court. Earlier this week, Washington issued a 45-day extension allowing U.S. companies to continue doing business with Huawei. European markets are trading lower as investors monitor the China coronavirus epidemic and a slew of corporate earnings. Frankfurt's DAX is trading fractionally lower as official data showed German economy stagnated during the fourth quarter of last year. London's FTSE 100 has also lost a fraction after AstraZeneca shares fell 5%. CAC 40 in Paris is trading marginally lower as Renault shares slipped 4% after reporting a surprise 2019 loss. In Asia, Seoul's Kospi traded nearly 0.5% higher. Shanghai Composite gained a fraction as retaliatory tariffs cut on U.S. goods will take effect from Monday. Meanwhile, Nikkei 225 lost over 0.5% as index heavyweight fast retailing dropped over 1%, while Nissan shares plunged over 9%. Now let's look at the weather from around the globe. This is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.